Forget just race everything. Your 2026 race season success is built upon the strategic decisions that you make now. The optimal blend of the race calendar isn't just about your fitness, it's also about the amount of recovery time you have, so that way you can peak at the right events of the year. I'll help you navigate your upcoming race calendar so you can peak when it really matters. Because most athletes don't fail because they didn't try hard enough. A lot of times it's just that they didn't make their race season the most optimal for their body. They didn't give themselves enough time to recover in between races. They didn't work hard enough during certain times of the year. Maybe they got burnt out. Maybe they were overtrained. Maybe they got injured. And unfortunately, they fail because their race calendar worked against them. My name is Coach Steph. I'm the owner of R3 Endurance. I've been a triathlon coach for quite a while now. I've been a triathlete for over 20 years, a doctor of physical therapy for over 10 years, and I worked in a bike shop for numerous years growing up. I raced a lot of short distance triathlons. I raced in junior elite events. I've raced in draft legal elite events, and I've raced in national world championship events. And these days I like to have about 1 or 2 70.3 races on my schedule, just to keep me moving. Because of my background as a doctor of physical therapy and with my own history of injuries, I specialize in helping triathletes try to prevent injuries, but also those triathletes who are coming back from an injury, because I know how hard that can be. And I kind of know the ins and outs of what you need to know in order to get back to race ready shape. I've seen athletes in the clinic, from recreational athletes to more elite level athletes. And a lot of the reason why they're getting injured is because they're racing too much. So let me show you how I would set up my 2026 race calendar and give you a couple of tips along the way. I'm gonna open up with like a big picture of the annual training plan. We're going to take a step back and kind of look at the whole year. And then I'll give you some information on how I would time recovery in between races to make sure that you're not stacking races too close together and being too aggressive. That way you are able to make those PRs that you're looking for this year. When you're planning your race schedule, you also want to take into account how many weeks are in between each race. And what kind of race is that going to mean to you? So what do I mean by that? Let's start with race distances and how much time is required to recover in between each one. So if we're going to start with the sprint distance, you can recover pretty quickly from that. It does depend on how much training you've done and whether that was your peak race for the year or not. So if you are used to doing Olympic distance a lot and you've been racing for quite a few years now, a sprint distance is something that you could probably just lead up to the race, taper down a little bit, do the race, and within a week you can be back to training and racing again. If you're doing the Olympic distance, you'd want to have about a week of recovery. Now that doesn't mean that you're sitting around and doing nothing. It means that you're just having active recovery. For all of the times that I say recovery, I mean you're doing a recovery swim. Maybe you're going for a fast walk to get the blood flow going. You're doing some foam rolling or Theragun or massage gun techniques. You're getting a massage. Maybe you're doing a light cycle. You're just kind of spinning the legs around. So that's what I mean by recovery. So for that week, but you're not doing any high intensity workouts and you're not doing like your really long runs or your long rides. Now let's go to half Ironman distance, 70.3. At that point, you're going to have to run the half marathon at the very end. And typically it will take people about 2 weeks to recover from half marathon or a half Ironman event. Now, when we're talking about a full Ironman, 140.6 mile event, you have to do a full marathon at the end. And it is very difficult to move the next day. You're going to experience a lot of soreness, a lot of stiffness. You're not going to want to get up and move around, but you have to at least a little bit. But you don't have to move around a lot. So you want to have 4 full weeks of recovery before you really start loading in intensity workouts again, long rides, long runs, long brick workouts. Okay, so let me expand this. This is the Training Peaks app. So I'm going to explain the annual training plan for you, how I would kind of lay it out in the app here. The Training Peaks app is something that I use to coach with my athletes. We can communicate together. I can give them their training schedule, their plan on a nice calendar, and then we can communicate through each workout, and then also they can upload data from their training through their devices. It just auto syncs, so it keeps everything really easy. And why am I doing the annual training plan? Really because in order to determine what races you're going to do, you kind of want to plan it out for the year before you make that decision. Let's create a new annual training plan. Let's see what it comes up with. So let's choose a strong fitness because I've been training for over 20 years now. Every 4 weeks, let's say a recovery cycle. I normally like to cycle sync my recovery cycle with my hormonal cycle. That's something that you can do if it works out for you, but it's different for everyone. We can kind of manually create different cycles for different athletes. Some athletes need every 3 weeks, some athletes every 5 weeks. You know, we're going based on a 7-day plan. We can go based on a 10-day cycle. It just really depends. We can make it very specific for you. Weekly average, about 10 hours is kind of what I can handle. Most times I can't really get up to the 10 hours, but my easiest week will be about 6. My longest week might be 12. Leading up to a half Ironman. So I've already created this event because I am training towards Dallas Little Elm. That's going to be my A race for the season. It's the only race I've signed up for so far. And if you're going to be there, just let me know. I'd love to be there. Just say hi. And then I'm going to add an event. Let's say if I wanted to race Waco, and that would be towards the end of the year, but this is just to show you, sorry, it's normally in October. I don't even know what that time, I forget if it's a Saturday or Sunday. Anyways, okay, so triathlon, it's longer than 4 hours. It's a half Ironman. For me, it would be another A race. Now, I like to describe races in either A, B, or C races. A race is your peak race. That's the one that you want to taper down for. You want to be well prepared for. Your family's coming from out of town. Everyone's staying in a hotel. Like, you want to do your absolute best on that race. If you're doing a long distance triathlon, that maybe would be 2 times a year. That's it. Our bodies are not made to peak multiple times a year, especially as recreational or amateur athletes. Now, a B race is going to be almost like a training race. You can still race it, but we're just not going to expect that it's going to be your best performance. An example of this is in your training plan, I would probably keep your training relatively aggressive still. You'd taper down just a very small amount, not nearly as much taper as you would have for your A race. You'd be able to race the race just as you want to, practice your nutrition, hydration, your logistics, your pacing. And then you'd be able to pick up your training a little bit sooner than you normally would and get back into training towards your big race. And a C race is something that you're just kind of training through it. A lot of times that would be a sprint, a local sprint, maybe a local Olympic. If your distance is the half Ironman or the full Ironman for your A race, it would be a shorter distance event that you're going to be doing for these C races. A lot of times it can be a road race, you're running, or it can be, if you're a cyclist, it could be a cycling road race or a time trial of some sort. So these races you can use as training. You don't really have to adjust your training plan too much around it. Create the ATP. Let's see what it says. All right, so if we're looking at this, when you're thinking about your training for the year leading up to these races, you want to look at the whole picture.
You don't just want to look at the couple of weeks leading up to the race, because it just doesn't tell you very much. It just tells you where you're going to be, right? But you would start off with different phases of training. So you do base phase 1, base phase 2, base phase 3 is pretty standard across triathlon training. And then leading up to a race, let's look at this one because it looks a little bit better. So we'll do base training, then we'd go into a build phase. We'd be a little bit more specific about what we're doing. Maybe we're going a little bit longer. Maybe we're increasing the intensity. Build 1 and build 2, we're really going to be zoning in those race day paces. We're going to be focusing on our nutrition and hydration, dialing that in. We're going to make sure that you're getting in enough yardage in the pool. And then you're going to have some time that you want to peak prior to the race, and you're going to want to taper down into the race. So this is just describing where in the year that would take place leading up to your A race. Now, you could always put in various training races in between. This is really just looking at it globally.
When you're picking out your races, some other things you want to factor into are race day logistics. Also, are you going to need to travel to the race, or can you stay in the comfort of your home? So let's start with a race that's going to be close to home. The benefits of that is you can sleep in your own bed, you can make your own breakfast in the morning, you know kind of where to park because it's more likely a local race. You can scout it out the day before. You can have your family members there. You can have your family kind of drive down a little bit later so they don't have to be there for the whole race. So there's a lot of pros to racing close to home. And a lot of times you can find some races close to home if they're shorter distance races. But a lot of times it's very difficult to find a half Ironman distance that's going to be within driving distance to your home, like for a race morning. So for us here in Austin, the closest half Ironman distance event is Waco. And for me in Round Rock, that is still maybe 90 minutes away. It's definitely not close enough that I want to stay in my own bed the night before. So I need to get a hotel or some sort of lodging the night before. But the positive with that is that I can still bring my bike, I can drive my bike, I can use my own car. You know, we can still bring the family and it's not that big of an issue. When you're thinking of racing an event that you're going to have to fly to, or you're going to have to drive 10, 12 hours, like long day events, those are extra factors that you're going to have to put into your planning. So let's say you live in the United States and you're planning to race somewhere domestically. Maybe you live in Texas and you want to go out and do Ironman California. So what is that also going to include? You need to get lodging. You want to arrive a couple of days early so you can get everything prepared. You need to make sure that your bike makes it. So traveling via airfare. So if you're going to be flying your bike, you're going to be flying it with you just like you would your golf clubs or your snowboard, or you could ship it. So you can ship it from a local bike shop where you live, and then you would ship it to a bike shop that's near the race. Now you'd be adding flight costs, you'd be adding lodging costs, you'd be adding car rental. You have to figure out how to get your bike in the car. Maybe you're getting a big enough car that you can put your bike in, or you have to bring your bike rack with you. So not only are the logistics of the bike, the gear, everything you need to bring, but then also race week, a couple of days before, where are you going to eat? Are you going to get a short-term rental so you can still cook? Are you going to stay at a hotel? Are you going to go out to eat? So those are some factors that you have to think about when you're doing a race that's not near your home. Now, if you are traveling internationally, that adds another factor to it, because then we're going to be talking about time zones. So all of those things we talked about before, like the bike travel, the renting car, the bringing your family if they're coming with you. But now you also have to factor in the time zones. You need to give yourself enough time prior to the race to get adjusted to the time zone. Time zone, maybe altitude too. It depends on if you're racing at altitude. So you want to give yourself time to adjust to that as well. A lot of times when people travel overseas, they want to sightsee. It's only natural. I mean, you're going there. It's almost like going on a vacation. You're taking time off of work. Maybe you're bringing your family or you're going with friends. You want to explore where you are going. But here's what I recommend. And this is what I did in Australia. I went the week before. I really didn't have a lot of time because I was a student in college and I could only really take a week or so off. But you want to go a week before. You want to get some time in the water there, out on the roads, riding your bike, making sure your bike works. You want to get out there and run. But you don't want to be standing and walking and sightseeing all day long leading up to your event. You're just going to fatigue your legs. You're going to feel burned out on the day of your event, and you're just not really going to feel that great. So I recommend saving your sightseeing for after the race. Yeah, you're going to be sore, but you're not going to have to do any training. You can just go out and go for a walk. And actually, walking is going to be good for recovery to kind of increase that blood flow. You want to think about that when you're planning your event overseas, or if you're traveling across country and you've just never been there before. So when you go to plan out your 2026 race calendar, think of these key points. Start with looking at your total year, not just the races. Choose races that can fit your life, respect your recovery, limit the amount of peak races per year that you're going to have, maybe 2. Use your B and C races strategically, and plan your travel plans around your performance plan. And that's how you can set yourself up for success in the 2026 race year. Drop a comment below and just let me know what distances you're racing this year.